All right, I'm going to go ahead and get the meeting started. So if a couple of ground rules to begin with. First off, I'll introduce myself. My name's Kevin Neely, and for those of you that haven't met me or haven't been to a training over the last year and a half, I am the main person behind BillTracker, the application we're going to walk you through today. A couple of ground rules. There's a lot of people out there in conference rooms or maybe logged in at their own computers. And so what I think might be best for me is to have folks, other than I'll probably mute everybody. And then if you have specific questions, I will go ahead and look at the chat. I may not look at it 100% all the time, but do put them in there. And then when I'm done with about 45 minutes worth of just walking through the application, I'll unmute everybody, and anyone that has questions should, unfortunately, will need to stick around till then, or again, I'll answer any questions that show up in the chat queue at that point. So again, I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody, which means I'll mute myself here for a second and then unmute myself, and then we'll get started on the presentation.
I don't know my own email.
All right. So again, if any of you are having problems hearing me, do please note something in the chat section and I'll try to catch that. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So many of you may have seen BillTracker in the past. We obviously were working with the state in the 2015 session, and here we are in the 2016 session. A couple of things to start with. When you log into the application, it lands you on the calendar screen. If you do not have a login for BillTracker, you're going to want to talk to your BillTracker administrator in your agency. If you have any problems logging in, you're also going to want to talk to your BillTracker administrator. On the login screen, if you've forgotten your password, there is a password reminder button you can use. And generally, you can log in either using a username, which should have been provided to you by your BillTracker liaison, or you can at any point log in using your state email address. So once you've logged in, it does land you here on the main BillTracker page, which we're looking at right now. We bring you to the calendar section. The navigation for the application is the orange bar running across the top. From this calendar, you can do a number of things. If there were meetings scheduled, they would tend to show up right here on the right side of the screen if you are a bill manager. Many of you who are on the call today are not bill managers, so when you're using BillTracker, the first thing you're going to want to do is set up a profile. It's easy to set up a profile. There's a drop down in dark blue. When you click on the drop down, it's going to ask you if you want to create a new profile. I can click create a new profile, and it's going to ask me to do a number of things. I can give it a name. In this case, this is going to be my priority 1 bills. So I'm going to type in a name, priority 1 bills. And then I need to stipulate exactly what it is I want to show up on the calendar. In this case, I just want priority 1 bills. You don't need to select any of these boxes unless you want to very specifically request information from one of these boxes. So in this case, I want all departments priority 1 bills. I don't, in this case, want to look for any specific bill managers. And then at the bottom, I have the option of setting this calendar profile as my default. I'm not going to do that in this case. I'm just going to hit save. And now any priority 1 bills that are scheduled for a hearing in any of the departments that I just selected will show up on the calendar here. We have uploaded all of the 2016 legislation, as many of you have noticed. So I'm not going to be able to go back in time and show you exactly what it's going to look like when a bill does get scheduled for a hearing. A couple other things to note from this calendar page. One, you can at any point click on a single day, click on a whole week worth of legislation, or toggle back or forward in time to see what's coming in the future or what has already happened. Once you've selected a day or a week, you can print the calendar using this print calendar button, and go to today obviously takes you to today. Finally, we do show you the third readings for the day. The third readings do tend to populate very early in the morning, often around 5 or 5:30 in the morning. These third readings are toggled to whatever profile you have up here. If you have no profile set up, it will show you the bills for which you're a bill manager. If you are not a bill manager, you are first and foremost going to want to come in and set up a profile for yourself. Often the easiest way to set up a profile, as I said, create new profile. And then if you're just working for one department or division, select that division that you're working for, give it a name, and then hit the save button. So that's the calendar. Again, if you have any questions about the calendar, do please put them in the chat room or hold that question to the end of our discussion today and I'll be happy to answer them. It's pretty straightforward. A couple of other items I want to hit before I move away from the calendar. One, for bills that you are either receiving an email notification, and I'll talk about how you get those in a second, or you are the bill manager, we do send out email notifications. They come to you as a meeting announcement, unless you've otherwise selected. And that meeting announcement can be accepted onto your Outlook calendar or whatever calendar you're using. They're compatible with Google and Yahoo calendars as well. If you accept that onto your calendar, it'll obviously be on your personal calendar. If you decline that meeting announcement, it will still stay on your BillTracker calendar. So you'll be able to find it here if indeed you didn't put it on your personal calendar. And it'll also show up on your print calendar button. So again, that's how the notifications go out. We do send notifications out in as close to real time as we can. We typically check throughout the day, once every 5 or so minutes, depending on the traffic that's happening on the legislature's webpage. And then as soon as we get those meetings into our system, we forward out emails notifying you that it's been scheduled. So that concludes the talk about the calendar. I'm now going to take a look up here at the main navigation bar. Bills over here on the far left is where most of the work gets done in the application. It is, after all, a bill tracking software. So you're going to want to pop in here to bills. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 separate options here under the bills toggle, including that top one, which just says bills. They're pretty self-explanatory. If I click directly on bills, it's going to give me a list of all the bills that have been introduced throughout the session. Today gives me a list of bills that have been introduced in the last 24 hours. Recent is 10 days. Tracked is all the bills that are being tracked by my agency. Now, this is not bills that are being tracked by you individually. It's every bill that's being tracked by your agency that you have permission to see. I would note that when you log into BillTracker, your navigation bar may look different than this, and in fact probably does. Only administrators have the Your Firm toggle, and then the tracking wizard only certain people will have. So if you don't see all of these navigation buttons at the top, don't be surprised. There may be some functionality that you just don't have access to. Again, I'm going to go back over to bills. The big question is, if I am someone that has permission to track legislation, how do I do it? Well, the first thing you need to do is find the bills that have been introduced. So in this case, I'm going to click directly on the bills toggle. And here we see a list of all of the legislation that has been introduced. At this point, we don't have all of the data for all of the legislation. We're waiting until hopefully tomorrow that will become available. But we have uploaded most of the data and we'll be able to take a look at it today. So from this page, there's a number of things I can do. One, I can decide how many bills I want to see at a time. Note that I can sort it by bill number or date. It defaults to sorting by bill number. And from here, I can take a look at the legislation. We give you the relating clause. We give you the full text of the summary in most cases. And if that's not enough information to divine whether or not it's important legislation for your organization, you can always come over here to this PDF icon, click on that, and it will open up a PDF version of the bill. As I said, in this case, we're linking directly into the LC drafts at the Oregon Legislature page. As soon as the actual bills come in, they'll replace the LC drafts and we'll be able to look directly at those. Hopefully, they won't be any different. So once you've decided whether or not the bill is of interest to you, you can mark it as read or unread. I've just read this bill, so I can mark it as read. This read, unread toggle is specific to each user. So if someone else in your agency has already toggled that read or unread button, it won't show up as toggled on your end until you have read the bill and until you select it out of your own BillTracker account. A couple of other things to note from this page. If I scroll down, you'll see here there's a bill in green. That bill in green is a bill that is already being tracked by someone in my organization. But I note that I haven't read that bill yet, so that is something to keep in mind. When you log in, you may see bills in orange and you may see bills in green. If the green bills are not marked as red yet, they're probably bills you're going to want to take a quick look at to make sure that they don't affect you. So, adding bills to BillTracker is fairly straightforward. There's two options. One, a little pencil here that you can see on your screen says Quick Add Edit. And the second option is the plus sign, which adds it to the tracking queue. In this case, I know this is a bill I care about, this housing bill at the top, 4001. So I'm going to quickly add it to my system by clicking on the Quick Add Edit button, and it's going to take me into what we call our bill tracking wizard. From here, I can read the summary if I want to read the summary. I have to identify at least one bill manager in my organization. In this case, Kevin Neely is going to track the bill, and John Doe is going to track the bill. We don't care how many people manage the bill, but you have to have at least one bill manager. The next thing I'm going to decide is which departments care about this bill. So I'm going to go back up and look at this. It's a housing bill. In this case, maybe education, human resources, and risk management all care about the bill. You don't have to have 3 different users. You can have just one department. And again, in your case, it may not say department here. It may say division. That's all been set up for you depending on what you call each subdivision of your organization. Once I've decided which departments care about the bill, I then need to or can have the option of assigning it to a program area if I want to assign it to a program area. I have the option of establishing a position on the bill or a priority on the bill. Note with priority, we don't tell you if 1 is good or bad or 5 is good or bad. That's something you're going to want to confirm with your agency to make sure that everybody's on the same page. The scorecard tab right here allows you to test the position of the organization against how legislators are voting. Again, that's not going to be used by most state agencies. And finally, you have the option of tracking or monitoring the bill. The bill always defaults to track. The difference between tracked and monitored is essentially whether or not it's going to show up on reports. If I monitor a bill by division or department, that monitored bill isn't going to show up on most of my reports. Why would I want to monitor a bill? Maybe it's got a relating clause that concerns me, but the bill right now doesn't affect my organization. In that case, I definitely want to get a notice when it's had a hearing scheduled, just so I can take a quick look and make sure there's no amendments that affect my agency in an adverse way. So again, it's going to default to track. And then I'll talk about this show options here in just a second, but really all I need to do to get the bill tracked into the system is hit the save button, and now it's going to track it and take me to what we call our bill detail page. In this case, I'm not going to talk too extensively about this page right now. I'm going to go back to bills, take a look at all the bills, and you'll see there it is at the top. House Bill 4001 is now in green, it's tracked, and I've marked it as red. So again, that was how I add a bill one at a time. In this case, I clicked on the pencil button. If I want to add multiple bills, there's 262 bills that were introduced this session so far, and I want to maybe add 3 or 4 at a time. Maybe I want to add 100 at a time. I can always come in and just click on that pencil. You'll see that it's taken that bill and it's placed it in what we call our tracking queue. So in this case, I'm going to select 3 or 4 bills. Again, you can scroll through all the bills. Once you're down here at the bottom, if you want to move on to the next tab, you can move on to the next tab. It'll take you to the next list of bills. Once those bills are in your queue, they stay in your queue. So you can work your way through all of the tabs at the bottom and keep adding bills if you like. Once you've clicked on that little plus sign and added as many bills as you'd like to your queue, you need to come up to the tracking wizard. It's really important. Note, if this is blue, that does not mean you're tracking the bill. You're only tracking the bill if indeed it is green. So I'm going to come back up here to my tracking wizard, click on that tracking wizard. It's going to take me back into that tracking queue that we were looking at just a second ago. And from here, I'm going to decide, 1, who are my bill managers? Again, which organizations or divisions within my organization care about the legislation? I can fill out or not fill out any of this additional information. And then I can hit save and continue. Once I hit save and continue, it's going to take me to the next bill in the tracking queue. Note, I still have 3 of those 4 bills in here. And again, I'm going to quickly decide who cares about the bill. I'm going to quickly decide which of the organizations or departments within my organization care about it. And now in this case, I may want to do some other things. Part of the application of BillTracker that we're most proud of is its ability to route legislation out for review. So BillTracker will automatically forward a copy of the legislation as well as any review forms to external or internal reviewers. To do that, I do click on this options button, and now it's going to show me what my options are. My first option is to set a lead manager. I can hit the drop down over here and you'll see I have two possible managers, Kevin or Michelle. In this case, Kevin Neely is going to be the lead manager. If I set myself as lead manager or set someone as lead manager here, that means anytime you look at that bill or have a report of the bill, it will highlight the lead manager on that report or throughout the application. The next question I need to ask myself is, do I want to send this bill out for review? If I do want to send this bill out for review, I can now do it from here. Notice I'm tracking this bill for 3 different divisions: administration, budget, and finance. Down here at the bottom of my screen, I can request reviews. Those reviews are requested based on which division is tracking the bill. So if I click on administration, it's going to give me a list of all of the possible reviewers that may be interested in this bill under the administration division. I want to maybe route this bill, in this case, to Kevin and Amy. I can route it to as many or as few people as I want. And then over here under the message side, if I want a specific message to go out to that user, is section 2 bad, I can do that. Again, you don't have to put a message out there. And I can select reviewers from each of the individual divisions in my organization. The next option I have is sending meeting notifications. If they're not a bill manager, remember the bill managers that you've listed up here automatically will receive notifications for any bills when they get scheduled for a hearing. But if you have other individuals within your agency or organization that are interested in getting notifications, you can add them as meeting notification recipients and send them a meeting notification from here. Again, very simple, very straightforward. Folks that receive meeting notifications don't even have to have access to BillTracker. And you can assign as many or as few as you'd like when it comes to meeting notifications. So I hit the save and continue button. It's going to take me to the next bill in the queue, and it's going to, at the time I hit that button, forward out these reviews. So it happens nearly instantaneously. I'll get that review form. And then it'll take me to the next bill in my queue. At any point, I can remove all the bills from my tracking wizard. All the bills are over here, or I can remove an individual bill from the tracking wizard. I can also leave the tracking wizard if I wanted to go back over and look at the bills again. You'll see I am now tracking that bill. These 3 bills are still in my queue, and I could add additional bills if I wanted to add additional bills. So that's how you add and remove bills from BillTracker. The most important thing to remember is do check to see periodically if you've left bills in the tracking wizard here. In this case, I've left 4003, 4004, 4005. Those bills are not being tracked by my organization, and no one is going to get an email notification, and they're not going to show up on any reports or calendars until I have gone through and selected at least one bill manager, at least one department, any reviewers, and hit that save and continue button. That's what moves me on to the next bill and actually tracks the legislation. So again, that's how you add bills into the tracking wizard. Very straightforward. Pull up the bills. If you pull up just today's bills, it'll show you only the bills that were introduced for the day. I'm going to pull up all the bills, select either the pencil or the plus sign to add them into the tracking wizard. So a couple other things that you can do from up here. You can look at any reviews that have been sent out from here, and you can track any pre-session bills. We don't need to worry about pre-session bills now since we've got all of those in. So let's take a quick look at this reviews section. If you are tasked with sending out reviews or tasked with actually doing reviews, this is a great place to come in and see what's happening with all of the reviews that have been requested within your agency. So again, when I click on bills and reviews, it's going to take me to a list of all of the bills that have been sent out for review. In this case, I've only got 2 reviews that have been requested, both of them on House Bill 4010. And one of them, it looks like in this case, neither of those reviews have been completed. But from this page, I can send out a reminder that just says, hey, don't forget, you need to complete this bill review, or I can archive the bill or delete the bill review request from here as well. I can also, if I wanted to find all the reviews that have not been completed yet, I can hide all my completed reviews and see just the reviews that have a hearing scheduled. That'll give me a cue as to which reviews I need most urgently. So this filter section up here is a really effective tool to narrow down and see what's happening with your reviews in your department. Again, I can select an individual reviewer, hit the filter, and it'll show me just the bills for which that person is reviewing them. Or if I wanted to sort by department, I could do the same. So again, I get to this page by selecting bills, coming down to the reviews toggle. You've probably noted that as I move over the bill number itself, it does darken up there, or lighten up, I guess, indicating that it is a hyperlink to the legislation. If you click on that link itself, it takes you into what we call the bill detail page. From here, you can get additional information about the legislation. And so you can see here there's a whole series of tabs. I can sort through these and show you any documents, history, meetings, etc. But for the 2016 legislation, we don't have anything yet. So I am going to have to jump into a 2015 bill. So to do that, I'm going to pop into search here real quick, go back to the 2015 session, and in this case, I just want to pull up a bill that I know has information, House or Senate Bill 777. I'm going to search for it. There it is, and again, I'm going to click on the bill number itself to take me into that bill detail page. On this bill detail page, I like to pick this bill because it has a D in grossing. You don't see that every day. But as I said before, from this page, there's a series of tabs that allow you to get more information about the legislation. We also tell you who's managing the bill, if anybody has elected to get notification receipts, and then which departments or divisions in your agency care about the bill, what their position and priority is. And then down here, these tabs give us more information. The first tab, Documents, the second tab, History, and the third tab, Meetings, all provide information that we have gathered from the Legislative Assembly. The Documents tab is data or documents that have been provided to the Assembly. Again, all the versions of the bill show up here. Any amendments that have been adopted by the Assembly show up here. Any proposed amendments that have been submitted to a committee. Note here that there's, well, in this case, it looks like we may actually have all the amendments. Who knows if there's a D8 or a C8 or a C7 amendment. But often you'll see a gap in number here. Those are amendments that were not presented to the committee but were prepared elsewhere. We don't have access to those. However, if you do get a copy of amendments that don't show up here, there is a place that you can add them to the bill profile. I'll show you how to do that in just a second. And finally, under additional documents down here, this is simply a list of all of the documents that have been either prepared by the legislature and made public or have been received by the legislature during a committee hearing. And so you can see here, I've got a whole bunch of meeting materials, fiscal impact statements, budget reports, if I scroll down, staff measure summaries, revenue impact statements, and then final staff measure summaries. Again, if this bill's had been, there's a copy of the pony. So you'll see a number of documents that are often associated with a piece of legislation all end up here under one tab. We do gather this information from OLIS about 4 times a day, not exactly 4 times a day, in fact. So it's typically up to date or at least relatively current anytime you come into the legislation. The History tab gives you the history of the bill. Obviously, this bill went all the way, so you can get basic information here from this History tab. Meetings is a list of all of the meetings that the legislature has had or is going to have on the bill. So in this case, again, this bill was a 2015 bill, so we don't see any meetings scheduled moving forward. But from this page, you can add the bill to your calendar if you did not accept that meeting announcement. And you can also forward a copy of the meeting announcement to a colleague that's working with you by clicking on Email this meeting. So you can do all of that here under the Meetings tab. The next round of tabs, most of which you should have, they are information that the agency is providing about the bill. The Notes tab is any notes that anyone has added to the bill. It's easy to add a note to the bill. I simply click on the Add Note button and I can type my note here. If I could type, it'd be better. Type my note here. 2 questions I have to ask myself. 1, Do I want to share this note with everybody in my organization? You may not all have permission to view or see shared notes, and in which case you may not even have this checkbox. But if I do want everyone in my organization to be able to see it, I can click on the shared button. And then I need to decide which department, again, we're tracking this for administration and budget and finance, which department do I want this note to be affiliated with? Why do I want to affiliate it with the department? Well, when I run those reports later, I may not want type my note here showing up with administration, but I may want it showing up with any budget and finance reports. If I do not select a department, it's going to show up on any report for any department. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and select administration, hit the save button, and now it's going to save that note. A couple of things that are worth noting about the notes. Note it only says who created it. So if someone else were to come in later and click the edit button, it will not alter this created by name. And so again, I would caution folks to edit other people's notes with care. Maybe in those instances, it's better just to add your own note to the bill, which you can do, again, just by clicking on the Add Note toggle if you have permission to add notes. The next three items here, bill reviews, fiscal impact, and governor's reviews, all relate to that review process I talked about earlier. So if I click on bill reviews, it's going to give me a list of any review that has either been requested for the bill or completed related to the bill. So let me scroll down and we'll take a look at see what's happening here. So you can see I sent this bill to myself for review earlier through the budget and finance department, and that review form has not been completed yet. And in this instance, I have completed a review. And you'll see over here on the right side of the screen, I have a couple of options. A check marks, which allows me to accept that review. If I accept that review, it's going to update the position and priority for that agency, that division, administration, which is currently not reviewed and no priority. When I accept this, it's going to accept it and update both the position and the priority. And then it's going to take my comments here and transfer them over into the notes section. Why do we do that? Well, these comments don't show up on most reports, but notes do. So if I choose to accept this, it's going to give me a little cue. Are you sure you want to do this? When I say I do, it's then going to accept that. And the next time I come into this bill, you'll see that this turns green, shows up as accepted. And all of those comments transfer into the notes section. And all of the updates show up here on the top. So come back into bill reviews. The next time that'll be in green. Fiscal impacts largely operate the same way. At this point, you can see I have sent a fiscal impact out to myself. From here, I can also request fiscal impacts. When I click on the request review, it opens up a dialog box that asks me for a few basic pieces of information. We always default to the most recent version of the bill. Say there were amendments that you needed to attach, you can attach them here. Tell us who you want to review the bill, give us a due date and time, and then if you optionally want to type in a message, you can. Hit the save button, and it will send out a review form requesting a fiscal impact statement be completed. Governor's reviews operate the same way. I haven't sent one out for this bill, but again, you can hit the request review, and this will allow you to send out a governor's review, also known as a blue sheet review. The next tab, Materials, we like to think of this as the virtual file cabinet for the bill. If I click on Materials, it's going to give me a list of any documents that are associated with the bill. I can add a document. What kind of document would you want to add? Again, you could add a piece of testimony, a spreadsheet, a PowerPoint presentation. We don't care what kind of document it is. Again, once you've added it to this Materials section, it will be available for anybody that has access to your bill tracking system to see. Adding a document is simple. You saw I clicked on that Add Document tag, give it a name, give it a description, type in your date. If you want to just put a URL there, www.oregonlive.com, you're welcome to do that. And then you're also welcome to click on the Browse button, in which case it's going to pull up your file manager, and you can go in and attach a document, hit the Save button, and it will post that document in here to Materials. Cancel out of here, and those materials will all show up here, and you'll be able to view them. Some of you may have the ability to send materials. Again, if you click on the Send Material button, it will allow you to route out whatever that document is. either to someone internal to your organization or external to your organization. Type in a subject line and introduction text. Any documents that are sent from BillTracker appear to be sent from the user. So when you hit the reply button, it will reply directly to your email. We lose track of it at that point. The last few toggles here, votes. This is just a list of all the votes that happened on this bill. So this bill had 3 separate votes on it. Again, I can quickly toggle back and forth to see how individual legislators voted on this bill. We do expect to update this toggle here in the near future to include committee votes. Tracked votes, only some of you will have the ability to see. This is one of those areas where we often do have limited permissions. But this tool allows you to essentially conduct a vote count on an individual piece of legislation. So you can determine if individual legislators are leaning yes, they're a firm yes on the bill. Again, all of these options. To edit the votes or your expected votes, you simply click on the Edit Votes toggle. Session endnotes is not going to be important until sometime in mid-March. But from here, if you have a specific note you'd like to add to an end of session report, you can do that. And finally, we do allow you to link bills together. So if this bill, in this case Senate Bill 777, showed up in a previous session in a different iteration, maybe it was out in 2013 special session, I could link it to a bill in that previous session, link those 2 bills together, and now I can toggle back and forth between those 2 bills. That can be very useful, again, if you have notes or reviews or materials associated with that prior version of the bill. You can quickly and easily toggle back and forth between the bills simply by clicking on the hot link to the other bill. So all of that lives here in linked bills. So that's the bill tracking, the bill detail page, excuse me. Again, how did I get there? At any point, I can come up here, pull up my bills, and click on the hyperlink to the bill. That will always take me into that bill detail page where I can gather more information. I can also come up here to the top of the screen, type in a specific bill number, hit the search button, and it will pull up that bill down here at the bottom of my screen, and I can click on that bill number from here, and it will take me back into that bill detail page. Before I go too far, I do want to show you what those review forms look like. I meant to do this a little earlier. I apologize I didn't. If you do elect to send a review request out to somebody, I'll pull one in here. It does come to their email. It asks them a few basic questions or tells them a little bit of information. One, if there's a specific form they need to fill out, it shows up here at the top of the email. Basic information about what they'd like to do, and then a link that takes them to a review form. Here's what the review form looks like. Again, from here, I recommended position if I want to recommend a position, recommended priority if I want to recommend a priority, any comments that I have about the bill. If I need to attach a document, either that review form I might have filled out or maybe a fiscal impact statement, I can do that. If I had been signed up as a email notification recipient, I'd have the option of a toggle here. I'm not, but I could get the bill sent to myself or the meeting notices sent to myself. And then finally down here, I can suggest an alternate reviewer, which will then post back into BillTracker, and an email will go out to who originated the request, noting that there was an alternate reviewer suggested. When I hit Save Review, that review will post back up into that bill. So again, if I'd put a review here, I could come back in to 4010. Open up the bill, and that review would show up here in this Bill's Review toggle. I didn't complete the review, so it still shows as pending here. So that's what those review forms look like. That basically completes the discussion of what's happened up here in this Bills toggle. Again, these first 3 settings, 4 settings really, bills, today, recent, and tracked, that's just a listing of the legislation that's been introduced this session. Reviews is an overview or a complete list of all the reviews that have gone out for your agency. The calendar toggle we've already talked about, so just a handful of additional things I want to hit on today. Search is an important one. I'm going to click on the search button, and again, as you saw just a second ago, I am able to look back into previous sessions. You'll see I've got information going back all the way to 2007. For many of you, we'll only carry information going back to 2010, and we're working on getting that into the system right now. But obviously, all of the information from the 2015 session tracked bills is still there. And again, if you were just looking for a piece of legislation related to past session, you can look and find that bill here. The top portion here, department, bill manager, priority, reviewer, position, all of that is typically information that you have provided us about the bill. The information down below is information that the legislature has provided us. Right now, the 2016 bills aren't, most of this isn't too functional because we just don't have all the text yet. We expect to have that in tomorrow. But again, once we have all of the sponsors in, you'll be able to search by sponsor. And this keyword search here is something I do want to highlight. It is a change from what we had in the 2015 session. This keyword search is now a Boolean search. So if I typed in human services and put it in quotes, it would find just that phrase human services together. Last session, if I'd have typed this in, even with the quote marks, it would have found every bill that had the word human and every bill that had the word services in it. I can also use Boolean operators like and then I could type in here child welfare, and it would find bills that had both of those phrases in there. If I change that and to a not, it would find any bill that had the phrase human services and then exclude from your search any bill that had the phrase child welfare. You can also use percentage signs, many other kind of wildcard tools. But again, we're really hopeful that this will help you in tracking legislation. Obviously, there's only 262 pieces of legislation this cycle. But again, if you want to try and find those bills that have very specific phrases in it, you'll be able to do that this cycle. Note there's also a just searching the relating clause. Again, if you put that in quotes, it'll find that phrase in the relating clause section. And finally, I want to highlight there's a keyword search up here at the top of the screen. This is a quick keyword search, and it only searches the relating clause and the summary of the bill. So if you want to drill down to the full body of the bill, you always need to come to the search screen and use this keyword search. Once you hit the search button, it'll find those phrases, and the results will post down here at the bottom of the screen. Again, right now we do not have the full text of the bill in BillTracker. We do expect to have it in sometime tomorrow, hopefully early tomorrow morning. But again, we'll be working with DAS to get notice out when all of the information has been posted to BillTracker and to OLIS. So that's the search screen. Again, you get to the search by clicking on the search button. The next area I want to talk briefly about is reports. There are 4 options here, and there will soon be 5 options here. But if you just click directly on reports, that takes you to a report wizard. Saved reports is a list of any reports you've saved. Excel reports exports fields into an Excel output. And scorecard reports many of you won't use, but it does allow you to test your position against individual legislators. In this case, I'm just going to select reports directly, and it's going to take me to this report tracking wizard. First thing I need to do is tell the wizard which report I want. A couple things to note. This search bills report at the top is a report that will return all bills that have been introduced during the session, not just your tracked bills. All the rest of these reports specifically pull up bills that are being tracked by your agency. I'm just going to come down here and run the tracked bills reports, which is what I commonly do. First thing I need to do is tell BillTracker what the parameters are. Again, I can filter it by division or session or bill manager. You don't need to worry about state because you're mostly only tracking in Oregon. But any of the rest of these are items I can set up, and it will filter the report. I can also give the report a title down here at the bottom. And then finally, if I hit the Run Now button, it's going to generate a report in a new tab. And that report comes out with, first off, hyperlinks to the legislation. And this report happens to just give a summary, department and position, and then who the bill manager is. So that's all generated from the reports toggle itself. You probably saw down here that there's also a Run Later option. If I click on that Run Later option, and my mouse moves, Run Later option, it's going to give me the option of naming this report, Tracked Bills. And if I choose to, I can elect to send this report to myself or to someone else if I want to. I have to put the full email address of the recipients and either separated by a comma or a semicolon. You can put as many recipients as you want, and again, this report will then be sent to me daily each morning. That report typically comes out, as I said earlier, with most of the stuff in here, around 5 in the morning. If I hit the save button, it will then post that report here to my list of saved reports. A couple things about those saved reports: they are specific to the user. So if you come into BillTracker and add a report, that report will be your report and your report alone. No one else in your agency will have access to it. So if you put a report in there with your name on it, not a big deal. It's just yours to use in the future. That's the reports section. I want to talk briefly about this Excel export. If we don't have a report that fits your needs, you can always export fields out to Excel. First thing you need to do is identify which fields you care about: bill manager, bill name, bill sponsor. Most of these are pretty self-explanatory. So in this case, I want the title, which is the relating clause of the bill name, and maybe the current committee. And then I can pare down the information I want using any of these. And finally, when I hit the Run Now button, it will generate an Excel file that exports whatever fields I have requested be exported. So that's the reports Excel report. I'll briefly describe sometime in the next 2 days, I suspect, certainly by the end of the week, we will be putting in a custom report tool. I will send very extensive instructions on how that works to Amy Williams, and she will forward it out to the legislative folks who are working with BillTracker. But you're going to want to come in and play with that. We have modeled that report tool on what was in Linus, so hopefully it will be effective for most of you. Obviously, we'd hope to get it in today, but unfortunately, haven't got it quite completed yet. So that'll land here under the reports section. The tracking wizard we've already talked about. That will put you back into that tracking wizard if you left any legislation in there. Legislators is simply a list of who the legislators are each session. We haven't we haven't updated that for 2016 because they haven't posted that in OLIS for 2016 yet. So as soon as that information pops in there for the OLIS folks in 2016, it'll update this page. So that should happen tomorrow as well. Finally, under your account, if I click on your account, it's going to give you a number of options for your how you want to interact with BillTracker. If you are a bill manager, you can elect to get a third reading list sent to you daily, as well as a daily calendar. If you are getting meeting notifications, you can elect to get them in plain text. As I said earlier, all of our meeting notifications do come to you as meeting invites, and so they are acceptable, in which case they go onto your Outlook calendar. One of the reasons you may want plain text is sometimes if you don't accept them, they do show up as tentative on that calendar. If you're just sick of getting invitations from us, you can completely opt out of getting those meeting notifications. And then finally, you can elect to get a keyword email. If you do want to get a keyword email, you can type in the keywords that you want. Again, if you want something specific, you can put it in quotes, human services. And then in this case, instead of an and, everything here is an or. So I can add whatever I want next, human services, and maybe in this case, I don't know, want budget or whatever it is that I'd like, I can put in there. This keyword email comes to you each morning. It looks at whatever bills have been introduced for the day. We don't look at the whole bill stack, just the 1 day's 24 hours worth of bills. And we return it to you listed on the likelihood that you'll be interested in that bill. So in this case, a bill that had both the phrase human services and the word budget would be at the top of the list, and then any bill that had just the word budget would show up at the bottom of the list. Finally, you can opt into getting text messages. If you do want to get text messages when meetings get scheduled, we need to know what your number is and who your carrier is. And once you've provided us with that information, we'll send you text messages only when the hearing announcement is within 8 hours of the hearing. So that's just during the hour notice period, typically, or 2 hour notice period that they often have in the waning days of session. So again, I got to this page simply by going into your account up here at the top. So a quick review, and we'll start over here at the calendar page. The calendar is the first thing you're going to open up to when you come into BillTracker. On the right side of the screen will be a list of any bills for which you are the manager. If you are not typically a bill manager, but you want to see what bills your agency cares about, you have to come in and set up a profile, which you do by using the drop-down and selecting Create New Profile. Third readings show up in the bottom left corner. The meat and potatoes of the application lives over here under the bills toggle. I can click directly on bills. It's going to give me a list of all the legislation that has been introduced this session. And any bills that are in green are bills that your agency is tracking, not necessarily that you're the bill manager for, but that your agency is tracking. Any bills in blue are bills that are left in your queue, and orange bills are bills that the agency is not yet tracking. You can always look at the text of the bill by clicking on the hyperlink to the PDF over here on the right, or get into the bill detail page by clicking directly on the hyperlink for the bill detail. I'll go down to House Bill 4010, click on that link, and that'll take me into the bill detail page where I get my individual tabs that give me more information about the legislation. All that is under the bills toggle. If I want to find a specific bill, I can either search for it here using the search screen, or I can type in a keyword up here or the bill number at the top. This bill and keyword up at the top only searches the relating clause and the summary, and it only searches the current session of bills. If I want to find a bill from a previous session, I do need to come into the search screen, use the legislative sessions toggle, and then if I want to search the full text of the bill, I have to use the keyword search from the search screen. Reports all live under the report toggle. If I click directly on reports, it takes me to a report wizard, which I can then select a report from. Tracking wizard, again, are any bills that I left in my tracking queue. Legislators is a list of legislators. And then finally, your account is where you set up the application for how you want it to interact with you and with your organization. Some of you will have this Your Firm toggle. If you do have that Your Firm toggle, it does mean you're an administrator. I'm not going to go into the administration of the application today. You can schedule time either with me individually or come to one of the administrator trainings if you want more information about that. The help toggle over here currently is being updated, but by the time session starts, there will be a current help tool that allows you to get information about it. Also, if you go to the DAS webpage and follow the links to the legislative session, they typically have posted there a copy of our State of Oregon manual for using BillTracker. So that is the conclusion of the discussion about BillTracker and how to use BillTracker. I'm really looking forward to working with the state again in 2016 and moving forward. If you have any questions about BillTracker, one, I am going to unmute everybody here in a second, and you're welcome to stay around and we can go through them individually, or of course you can post them into the chat session. If you don't have any questions, I really appreciate you taking the time and look forward, as I said a second ago, to working with you in 2016. Best of luck to all of you. So again, I'm going to right now unmute everybody, and as I said, if you have any questions, this would be the time to ask. So any questions out there? And again, don't say anything too embarrassing because I have unmuted everyone. Any questions, anyone? Nothing?
No, will somebody be sending us an update email when we're getting access to the customized reports and whatnot?
Yeah, I will be working very closely with Amy Williams, and that should be right around the corner.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Terrific. Well, with no questions, you guys are taking it easy on me. Again, good luck this cycle, and thank you for your participation. Take care, all.